Welcome to Sci-Fi Book Trek.
Yes. Today we'll be doing the third and final instalment of the Star Trek Destiny series. It's entitled Lost Souls.
So what did you think?
Well, I liked it up until a point, and then for me it reminded me of those roller coasters, which at first start out gentle and they take you up and up and see lovely scenery, and you get to like a ramp. It goes up, up, up. You see miles around, and you go, this is actually quite pleasant. And then you realise, I said, where's the track? And you look, and it just drops straight down into a gaping chasm of blackness.
I mean, you've literally just described one of the Alton Towers, right?
Well, yes, that's what it reminded me of. But the rides are similar all over the world. But yeah, up until a certain point, I liked the book. Then it did a reveal which I felt it didn't need to do and spoiled not only that book, but all the other books for me.
Okay.
Partially.
Right. I have a feeling I know which reveal you're going to talk about.
Well, yes,
but spoilers.
That's in spoilers.
Yeah.
But overall, it is an end to the books.
Yeah. And it's an end to much more than that.
Well, yes.
As you can probably guess.
As a story on its own, if it was encapsulated in these 3 books, I would say it does a fairly good job. It's all concise. It's all contained within these books. That's all you need to read. However, especially the 3rd book, and also some of the 1st book, it does, I wouldn't say constantly, but it does keep reminding you that this is part of a bigger world that has been portrayed on films.
Yes.
And in other books and in television series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of that, the things that happen in it, I have issues with.
Right. I can understand that, and it probably ties into some of the stuff that I don't particularly like about the direction they took the Borg, as I've said in other videos. However, for me, it does follow on to what they set up in those shows. Now, I don't know how much...
Don't get me wrong, the end part, I didn't mind. I felt it was at least, an answer, final outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's about halfway to 75% way through, where there's a reveal, which it felt like he was trying to David Mack was trying to put a bow on everything, even things he didn't need to stick a bow on.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, if you're going to do that, it has to be a very neat bow.
Yes.
There are a couple of loose threads and a number of frayed edges with the bow he does.
Okay.
That's my issue with it.
I mean, this will be interesting because it might be that when we do the spoilers that I can answer those questions. But of course, we're in non-spoiler video at the moment. Because, like I say, I know that you didn't watch that much Voyager.
No, I didn't watch that much Voyager. However, some of the issues I have with the reveal is also related to things that have happened in the books. Not just like my sketchy knowledge of the series and stuff. It is, there are issues with what happens with the information just in the books. Overall, for the series, I liked it. The last book was my least favourite.
Which is a shame, considering it's supposed to conclude everything. It's supposed to. If you weren't happy with the conclusion, I can respect that. That's.
I'm happy with half the conclusion. The other half, it just seems to annoy me. The middle book itself was. I still don't know why it existed the way it is, because not much happens in it at all. It is very much a middle book, and it totally felt it didn't really need to be there, especially after reading all of them. It felt like some of it could have been compacted into the other books.
That is fair.
However, I would say the last book is fairly heavily loaded. It might have also been a good thing for some of the stuff that happens in the third book to happen in the second book.
I know one of your complaints from the second book was that when you get to nearer the end, there's this escalation of action and it felt out of place there.
Yes.
With that in mind, now that you've read the third one, does it feel like that slopes any easier?
No, like that still feels like a jarring, sudden brick wall. I mean, it explains why the Herosians attacked. I also slightly apologised to Tuvok, because he's explained why he's absent in a key part in the second book. Slightly. I don't fully apologise, because I still think, if you can't have the payoff in the same book, don't do little stuff like that.
I'm going to have Tim Ross walk out the corner now and go, why?
But I mean, what did you think? Because we've been through all three books now. We've been through the last one. We've heard a lot from me. What are your views?
Personally, I enjoy this series. From the perspective of where the Borg were left in Voyager, like I say, might be that there's missing elements there that you haven't seen. But from my perspective, I do enjoy these. It could be that it's some of the earliest work that I've read within the extended universe, and so I've got a bit of a rose-coloured glasses about it, a bit of a nostalgic feel, and the fact that I am a absolutely massive Star Trek fan doesn't help, I imagine. So I'll admit right now, I've probably got a bit of a rose-tinted glasses element to it. There are other books in the extended universe that I can't stand. So it's not that I read every single bit of Star Trek fiction and go, oh my God, amazing, because there is some stuff that is just dumb. And there is, I mean, a lot of the other fiction as well, you can see where writers are fighting, where they've picked favourite characters. And in some cases, there's an awful lot of... I'm getting completely off the topic of the book, but...
I mean, to pull you slightly back, if you're, let's say you've seen the series, you've seen bits, and you like Picard. Well, I mean, the character.
I was going to say, if you like Star Trek Picard, we cannot be friends.
If you liked the character of Jean-Luc Picard, would you say this is a decent few books to start?
I would... It's difficult. It's certainly more like the Picard from the show rather than the Picard from the movies. As you've pointed out, right down to his brooding aspects. I'm guessing you did count.
I counted this time.
Yeah, okay. But the characters seem, for the most part, intact. Esri a little bit less so, because I don't know where she went from being a counsellor to being a captain of a ship. But
I mean, to be fair, she does do some small counselling in this third book. Because she sort of, not counsels, but gets Worf to admit a few things. And then I would say reverse psychology on her, I believe it's her security officer, who is slightly wallowing in self-pity, and Ezra X comes in and just gives her both barrels.
Yes. I can't remember what her name is. I think she's Takarian.
Yes.
Yeah. I can understand an aspect of a captain being that you would need to perhaps counsel the troops, but...
Well, no. I'm not saying that she's there because of the counselling, but I'm just saying it was nice that in the books that she did use some of her counselling to communicate with at least two people she was having a discussion with, who she felt needed it at that time.
Yeah. But it's not anything that we haven't seen from Picard in his time.
No.
Although that said, I've got to admit that Picard is probably the one that really needed a counsellor in this aspect, because he's a miserable...
I think Picard is... I don't say the weakest character, but he could be easily cut out of these series of books and you wouldn't notice.
That is fair.
There is only one action he takes which results in the plot moving forwards, so to speak. Everything else, apart from like at the start being equipped with transphase torpedoes, but if it wasn't Picard, it would just be another ship.
Yes.
So I don't think Picard is really used in any of these books, and he's needed. I'm not sure the outcome would be different if Picard wasn't there.
I think it would be, because as Trek writers have no doubt found in the years that since TNG was written, whenever you think of Picard, the Borg are a major aspect, sometimes to the detriment of the story.
We're riding with the shadows after night. Baby, take my hand, you'll be alright.
No, to not have Picard in a Borg story, especially this one, would probably have been a mistake. But I do admit, I get where you're coming from.
To have him in there, but he could quite easily be retired on his vineyard, same things are playing out with Crusher, same things he's going through is happening in his vineyard. And then he sort of has a moment like 7 of 9 has in the book.
Yeah.
I think that could have perfectly had Picard in it, and he would have at least mentioned him. It would have gave him stuff to at least contemplate and stuff. But he did not need to be on the Enterprise.
I don't think you would have found the Picard character that I think of. I don't think you would have found him sitting on the sidelines. Not for this.
Well, anyway, I think.
Sorry, yeah.
I think it would have been better if he was on his vineyard, and you would have at least had him be able to do more. Like he would have been able to maybe evacuate, maybe decide not to evacuate, and then Crusher talks him out to it, and then he takes command of a small transport ship to try and get people out, and then it would bring in the wider aspects of what's happening.
I mean, there are cuts to that because you do have
yes, there are cuts to that.
President Baker.
Yes.
President Baker.
Yeah, and the little reveal with her and Seven is interesting because it explains why one of the other admirals was. It felt like really insulting Seven by calling her name, and you understand what he was inferring at.
Yes.
Which made him seem awful person.
Which, yeah.
But that happens in the second book where, of course, you get like a little reveal at the end of the book. It's incidental. But
the thing is, the story, as we've discussed in the previous book and the previous spoilers, the story as a whole is not the story of the characters that we know. The story is more centered around Hernandez.
Yes.
It's very much her story.
Yes, it is very much her story. Riker has motives and he does stuff. So if you like Riker, I would say yes. If you like Esri, she's good in it. But it's just, for me, the Picard character, he overwhelmingly felt he didn't need to be there. But that was just me. And like I'm not someone who really loves Picard. Like if it was, the classic fight of Kirk versus Picard, I'm always picking Kirk 100% of the time. I am, a Kirk fanboy. Picard has never really done anything for me. So maybe it's down to that. But yeah. Ooh. Anyway. So, I mean, overall, you liked it. Did you like how it wrapped up?
I'm quite happy with how it wrapped up. There is a follow-up book that...
Does that explain some of the loose ends?
I don't know which loose ends you're talking about at this stage.
Yes, we'll go over that in spoilers. I'm thinking there's 2 slightly big loose ends. One bigger than the other, and then there's loads of frayed edges.
But it's the same with... It's difficult to say It's difficult to berate a particular work because, like you say, this is a part of a bigger universe.
Yes.
And it's like to go on a slight tangent, it's like with the Star Wars stories. The prequel trilogy was not exactly a particularly well-done set of films. However, when you look at some of the side-along material, the Clone Wars cartoon, that then goes back and almost like fills in some of the gaps, so then you get a much more rounded picture. It's hard to justify that and then say, you know, this particular work had a lot of frayed edges, a lot of plot holes, a lot of... I'm not saying that what I'm saying is that, yeah, if you're going to write something, you need to pin it, you need to fill in those gaps, because you don't know what's going to be written afterwards, and it's naughty to use.
For me, these books as a whole are fine. If you just read these, they are fine. They wrap up everything they need to do. It's fine. It's just when you start considering all the other stuff it's pulling from, then it starts to fall apart for me. And it's because it constantly reminds you of those other things it's pulling from.
The larger universe.
Yeah. Whether like referring to exact films or exact episodes.
Or even books.
Or yes. That's why I have a difficult problem swallowing parts of it. Because it's telling me all this is connected. And that's breaking it for me. If it was just the books, I would probably like it. It's fine. It's good. But because it keeps on saying everything else is connected to it, it does not fully square that circle for me. And it feels like he makes a rod for his own back for no reason. He could have easily got away, like David Mack could have easily put a nice neat bow on the end, like he did, and that would be it. And it would be fine. It's because he tried to do something else as well that I have objections to it. That for me, it fell apart. That's what it was. If you just consider a book, it's fine. Consider everything else, for me, it starts falling apart.
I can respect that, because you've not read any other extended universe material, I'm guessing. So, yeah, that does make sense. We mentioned in one of the previous episodes that you suddenly picked up on the fact that, oh, Catherine Janeway is dead.
Maybe I could stand with an apple on my head and you could phaser it off.
Sounds great. If I miss, I get to be captain.
Yes.
That's in another book. That is actually covered in a completely different work, completely different author, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, in this, it felt in the third one, they did go out their way to mention all sorts of books and series.
It's like trying to watch a show halfway through. Like trying to come into a show that's already been established. There was a particular example of this.
Don't get me wrong, I would agree with you. However, if you come in through a show halfway through and things happen, then normally they've got some relevance in the plot or going forwards. These just feel like they've been sliced in and then that's it. They've been took out. It's just a reference. So for people reading it, you go, remember this? Remember this?
But I remember that in the first book, at least, there was at least explanations as to,
yes.
Oh yeah, we don't necessarily need to know about this conflict. For instance, you made the reference to Kittimer, and it was, if you know Kittimer, you'll get that.
That felt more relevant to the plot.
Yes.
this felt like it feels like it was making the universe smaller rather than bigger.
Okay.
Because every cutaway, it was to someone who was related or had appeared in another book, or it just felt that there are billions of people dying and we're focusing on everyone who's met Picard. Or, something to that extent.
Yes. I can agree with that. But then you've got, for want of a better term, the human element. Faceless people dying is a tragedy.
No, don't get me wrong. Having them faceless people, yeah. But, one, that has been happening throughout this book.
True.
All the books. If you're on a USS ship that is the character's not standing on, that you're reading about, you have about maybe 5 seconds at the most before the whole thing explodes. There's another nitpick, which we'll go over in spoilers, about starship names.
Right.
One of them struck me as rather odd. Then I looked up the others and I went, okay.
Hey, at least they've got unique starship names, as opposed to a particular other show which is now reusing the name Titan.
I don't get that reference, but carry on.
Season 3 of Picard.
Don't tell me. But anyway, back to the book. Overall, did you like the last entry yet?
I did.
Fair enough saying?
I thought there was enough action. The conclusion was, I thought, good. I mean...
No. I mean, this is your opinion.
Yeah. Ding dong, your opinion is wrong. I'm seeing it written all over your face.
No. Your opinion is completely valid to you.
To you. I liked it. Like I say, I've got the rose-tinted glasses, perhaps, but I enjoyed...
No, I mean, like I said, there is a lot to like. There's a lot to enjoy. I mean, overall, for me, I think book 1 is the best.
But you like the mystery aspect of...
Yes. But I think it sets up stuff and it delivers on the premise, and it's just a nice one-off book to read. The third book has... You are either going to be on board for what it does or not. If you're not on board, I would suggest skipping the epilogue. Not that it carries on, it's slightly more annoying, at least to me. But yes, read it fully. Like I said, about 75% of the way through, I was so, let's say, disappointed with the book that I knew I had to keep reading, because if I put it down, I wouldn't pick it up again.
Okay.
But the more I read, the more I got used to it, and I started seeing the book for what it was and seeing what it's trying to do. And for that, I like it. I don't fully love it, but I appreciate for what it's done.
Okay. So, Hopefully you'll join us for spoilers if we haven't already put you off.
Yes, if not, join us next week and you can see me scream at the camera.
I've already done several times of that. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye.